Welcome to today's explainer. Get ready, because we are about to decode a seriously mind-bending philosophy. We're going to explore this wildly fascinating worldview that connects a simple, everyday game of tiles to the fundamental, invisible fabric of the universe itself. Seriously. So if you've ever sat back and wondered, if there's actually a hidden order behind all the random chaos of your life, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To get to the bottom of this cosmic mystery, we first have to ask ourselves a massive foundational question. What is the true root of Chinese culture? Now, if you went and asked 100 historians this exact question, you'd probably get the usual familiar answers, right? They'd point to ancient doctrines and the well-known spiritual traditions, but the author of our source material today argues something pretty bold. They say that a lot of intellectuals out there who are desperately trying to revive Chinese culture actually don't know what it fundamentally is. And here is where we get a highly counterintuitive answer. The text argues that the true root is a specific culture in and of itself rather than Confucianism, Buddhism, or Taoism. Now, while those philosophies are obviously deeply important, the author is actually suggesting that they're secondary. Basically, they're the branches, not the root. To find the real root, we have to go back even further, to a concept that completely redefines how we view reality.
Section 1. The true root of culture.
So the source traces this root all the way back to Fuxi. He's the cultural ancestor of the Chinese nation, the figure who brought us the Bagua, or the 8 trigrams. Fuxi tapped into this profound cosmic vision, a really intricate order that perfectly aligns with the Tao of the greatest creator. And this concept, it's known as Hundun. Hundun essentially refers to the holographic nature of the universe. Imagine an order so incredibly vast that it encompasses absolutely everything, yet so microscopic that it excludes literally nothing. Every single object, every phenomenon, has this hidden Hundunic connection to the rest of the universe. Nothing exists in a bubble. It's this beautiful, deeply interconnected web that, to our limited human brains, just looks like random, messy chaos. Section 2. What is Hundun? Now, let's take this highly abstract metaphysical concept and ground it a bit. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how sensitive and interconnected this Hundunic state actually is. You've probably heard of the butterfly effect, right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Alaska could somehow kick off a storm in South Africa. Well, the author takes that idea and turns the dial all the way up to show the inescapable web of Hundun. Imagine an Inuit person coughing in the Arctic, and as a direct ripple effect result of that specific energy shift, someone in Australia falls from a building. It sounds wild, but the point is that every single action is inextricably linked in this universal chain of cause and effect. The text actually outlines 4 specific pathways we can use to start approaching and understanding this Hundun culture. First, there's revelation, which is essentially direct dialogue with the cosmos. Second is the Bagua, which involves understanding the hexagrams and the whole interplay of cosmic change. Third is studying the ancient teachings of Huangyi. And finally, number 4, which is our main focus today, is a culturally ubiquitous, completely everyday game. Yep, Mahjong. Section 3. The Mahjong Paradox. All right, this is where the philosophy becomes incredibly real. The author essentially uses Mahjong as a culturally familiar Trojan horse to explain the deepest workings of the universe. Think about it. It's a game of leisure played by millions, yet it perfectly manifests the principles of Hundun right there on the tabletop. Let's just look at the math for a second. A standard set of Mahjong uses exactly 136 tiles. You've got your east, south, west, north, the bamboos, the characters, and the dots. When you shuffle those 136 tiles, they combine to form an absolutely astronomical, labyrinth-like number of permutations. We're talking mind-boggling numbers here. Because of that astronomical number, you could literally play Mahjong every single day for an entire lifetime, and you might never encounter the exact same tile combination twice. Crazy, right? So when you sit down at the table, it feels like pure, unadulterated luck. It feels like you're in this chaotic maze where everything is just chance and no one could possibly predict if they're going to win or lose. But the source tells us this feeling of randomness, it's a total illusion. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is how it explains showqi, or hand luck. Players almost always blame blind chance, right? But Hundun says luck is actually governed by incredibly strict rules. Just notice the contrast here. Good showqi requires high physical energy, robust health, and even short-term abstinence. On the flip side, bad showqi
meaning you are statistically way more likely to lose no matter how skilled you are, kicks in if you're sleep-deprived, sick, or have had sexual activity within the last 24 hours. Even the specific direction you sit and your 5 elemental alignments completely dictate the flow of the game. The universe, it turns out, is meticulous. It leaves absolutely zero loopholes. The mere fact that an astronomical, seemingly random arrangement of tiles perfectly aligns with a player's physical and environmental state, that proves the point perfectly. What appears totally random is, in fact, incredibly structured and inevitable. If your energy is off, I don't care how clever or experienced you think you are, the tiles will ensure you lose. That is literally Hundun at work.
Section 4. The secret to success. Let's move along and see how this builds, because this is where it gets really applicable. If Hundun can dictate the outcome of 136 tiles on a folding table, what on earth is it doing to the billions of people moving around on this planet? Let's zoom out from the Mahjong table and see how this exact same hidden order dictates the realities of our modern society and our personal success. The author points out a glaring societal paradox that I'm sure we've all noticed. On one hand, you have these highly educated, incredibly intelligent, hardworking people who remain poor and just can't seem to catch a break. But then, on the other hand, you have individuals with way less education who aren't even particularly hardworking, yet they mysteriously accumulate massive wealth and just glide right into positions of power. Conventional logic simply cannot explain this. But Hundun? Hundun absolutely can. The text leans into this wonderfully, playfully subversive idea. Cleverness can be one's own undoing. Think about that. When we try to outsmart the system using our earthly, conventional intellect, we're actually distancing ourselves from the universe's true power. It's just like the experienced Mahjong player who loses because their physical energy is out of whack. The highly educated person often fails because their overly analytical mind is just totally out of sync with the natural flowing state of the universe. To prove this point, the source gives us a highly specific example, Mr. Zhang Basheng. He's a renowned figure in China, very well known for having special abilities. Now, according to the text, the secret to his incredible abilities is precisely the fact that he had very little formal education. Without a mind completely cluttered up by conventional academic concepts and rules, his mind just naturally operates in a pure Hundunic state. So in his case, having less formal knowledge directly equated to a much deeper, far more powerful alignment with the universe itself. Section 5. Return to the source. Okay, so we've seen how Hundun works in theory. We've seen it play out on the Mahjong table, and we've seen it in society at large. The big question is, how do we actually apply this to our own lives? How do we stop fighting the current and start drawing closer to that state of Hundun? Well, first things first, we have to stop doing the exact things that are pushing us away from it. The text outlines a pretty strict warning here. The more concepts you stubbornly hold in your brain, the further you stray. The more moral doctrines and societal rules you master, the further you stray. The more cold rationality and textbook knowledge you seek, the further you stray. Overstuffing our minds with materialistic logic and rigid rules is actively working against our alignment with the cosmos. It's like we're getting in our own way. So what's the fix? The ultimate solution is actually found in the converging wisdom of some of the world's greatest spiritual teachers. The author points out that Lao Tzu advised us to return to the state of a newborn baby, and similarly, Jesus Christ urged his followers to become like little children. The message is clear. To tap into the highest order of the universe, we have to actively unlearn our rigid adult cleverness and just return to a state of innocent, unburdened openness. And you know what? Buddha shared this exact same profound method, teaching his followers to detach from all forms and to let your mind dwell nowhere. According to the text, letting go of our absolute obsession with rational structure and form is the absolute highest way to approach the seemingly chaotic, yet perfectly meticulously ordered universe of the greatest creator. So, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to really ponder today. Based on everything we've just uncovered, from the hidden, unyielding rules of Mahjong to the genuine secrets of societal success, what are you going to do? Will you keep trying to forcefully outsmart the universe with your human cleverness? Or will you finally just let go, empty your mind, and return to the natural flow of Hundun? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and we will definitely catch you next time.